Welcome to another week of 5-5 Sports. It's been a crazy week no matter what way you look at it. So we're going to get right into it. We got NBA action. The conference semifinals, are well underway with a lot of good basketball being played. The conference finals in the NHL is now being played in Edmonton in that bubble over there. So we'll break down those two series. We got an NFL preview for you as the NFL season is just moments away. But we will get to that later. We will start with the NBA and the Raptors, who are facing a 3-2 deficit in their series against the Boston Celtics. And in Game 5, they have probably never looked worse this year. So I'll start with you guys. Just what went wrong in that particular game, because it was a hard watch for Raptors fans.
We just played bad on both ends of the floor. Our defense was not there. Raptors as a team, what we expect from them is good defense play, and that just wasn't there. Boston was just outscoring us, and then on the other end, we weren't scoring ourselves. And I think our top guys, they weren't getting it done. Like Lowry, Van Vliet, you expect them to be shooting well, and they just weren't during Game 5. I believe that first quarter was our worst first quarter in the playoffs, or in a very long time at least. Definitely our worst first quarter. And I come to this podcast a few days ago thinking, okay, we're gonna be able to talk about Game 3 and 4 and how Raptors are making a comeback, and then last night happens, and then we're just we're actually facing elimination now, and it's against a good team, so an elimination is actually very possible at this moment. And if we don't get our act together on both ends of the floor, by come next week, we might not even be talking about the Raptors anymore.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that this game really ended before it actually started. We were all coming away from Game 3 and 4 with the feeling of there's genuine optimism with OG making that shot, and then that great performance in Game 4. Simply in Game 5, there seemed to be this the shooting was just not there. Defensively, we were all over the place. It just, from start to finish, it was just a mess. And all credit to Boston, they came in wanting to win. And although we thought the momentum was going to shift, and we really did think that, especially after Game 4, that this is completely, now we're on the back foot once again, which is really becoming a concern. And especially in big-time playoff games against a team such as Boston. But we can only hope that we can improve for Game 6 and hope we can come away with the win.
I'm not going to get mad at this Raptors team like I did, not previously with the Raptors, previously with the Leafs. Just because I have a lot of respect for this team. Everyone doubted them. It's been a tough series, but no matter what, they've never given up. It's always been a battle, and with that OG shot, incredible shot, just with 0.5 is just something you never expected, and it gave Raptors fans hope, and that's what this team does. They always battle. The never say die attitude is something that I've always admired with this team, and it's something that we've really never seen with Toronto teams, and they are the defending champions. It's incredibly hard to repeat, and then when you lose your best player, it's basically impossible. But the job Nick Nurse has done to keep this team where it is, the competitiveness, the fight, like a Kyle Lowry, 35. I expect him to take 2 charges a night, and taking charges is an incredibly difficult part of basketball. You need an insanely high IQ. Your timing has to be spot on. Your awareness and kind of just your understanding of what a player is going to do, where a player is going to be in the right moment at the right time. It's almost an art. It really is an art form, and Kyle Lowry has just mastered it. Probably the best to ever take charges in the history of the NBA. It's not the greatest scorer ever, but it really is something, and it speaks to Kyle Lowry's heart, and it speaks to his fight and his determination as a player. Anyways, what I do want to say is I think Marc Gasol, no matter what he brings defensively and his intelligence, I think it's time to get him off the floor. It's really tough watching a guy that he looks like he's struggling. Just confidence is gone. They're giving him the Russell Westbrook treatment, just from three. They're not even closing down. They're not even trying to contest. They're giving him what he wants, and he hasn't hit a three all year against Boston. We're not even talking about this series. He hasn't hit one 3-pointer against Boston all year. Do I think the season is coming to an end? Yes, simply because, not because, you never underestimate the heart of a champion. It's even if they do get past Boston, then you have to run into Miami, who's going to be a lot less fatigued than you. Just they played less games than you. They'll maybe, depending on if they finish off Milwaukee in 5, they'll only have lost 1 game. So it's just with the circumstances, with everything going on, it's tough to see trying to kind of elevating the game to a new level, because at this point of the season, it just looks like they've ran out of gas against a very good Boston team.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I mean, there's no shame in losing to a team like Boston. And the season Raptors had, I mean, I just one of the very few years where the reigning champion team comes into the season as an underdog, because people weren't expecting this from the Raptors this season.
Yeah, people weren't expecting them to make the playoffs, and that's the most surprising thing. It's not like they didn't lose their whole team. They just they lost their best player, but there's a lot of good individuals on that team, and they're a good team. They're a balanced team. But when you lose a player of his stature, you need a guy like Kawhi Leonard to an NBA championship. That's why he's on the Clippers. Because the Clippers pay him the money to win a championship, and he proves night in, night out that he is the most consistent and the best player in the NBA, because he does it every single night. Occasional, off night. We saw it in Game 2 against Denver, but we're not talking about that. Kawhi Leonard has, to me, proven in this playoffs that he is now the best player in the NBA, without a doubt. But quick, before we end this discussion on the Raptors, the reason I don't watch horror movies is because, I want to go to bed at night feeling happy. And I watched that entire Raptors game, that Game 5, and it just felt like a horror movie. And, everything that could go wrong went wrong. And it just, when you could feel everything coming, every shot, it almost felt like a miss. Nothing felt like it was going to go. And even wide open shots, you knew they weren't going to go in. It's just one of those nights. And I went to bed sad. And it's tough in that regard to watch a team when they're getting blown out. That's why I struggle watching Leaf blowouts. But that was, a rare kind of game yesterday from the Raptors.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to see a game like that for the remainder of the series. Whether or not we win or lose the next game, we're not going to see a game that bad again, I don't think. But it's going to be hard to come back from this, because Boston's a good team, and it's a team where if you're down to them, it's very, you could feel the pressure coming for each game that comes forward next.
Yeah, they got the confidence. They have the skill. Kemba Walker's being there, done that. He's been doing it for years. He's when he wants to be, he's almost unguardable. Tatum, even when you put a guy like OG on him, he could still make his own shot and he could still cash it in. If he's on, he's on. There's some of those guys that we know about it when they're on. There's just no stopping them. That's Jason Tatum. That's the type of player he will become in the next year or so. But I mean, look, the Raptors, they have a shot. It's not over till it's over. We saw that with that OG Anunoby shot. So Raptors fans, get your Bibles out, whatever you want, and just start praying to the gods that we force a Game 7, because it looked very unlikely after Game 5 on Monday. The other series, the Clippers versus the Nuggets. The Clippers up 2-1. Do the Nuggets have any shot, or are they going to run out of gas?
I think the Clippers are winning the series, but I think it's going to go 7. I think Denver's a very good team. I think Clippers are a great team, don't get me wrong, but I think people are sleeping on how talented Denver is as well. I think it will come down to Clippers with taking them, because, I mean, like you said, we've talked about Kawhi many times on the show. We talked about how great a player he is on both ends of the floor. We saw last game, Game 3, when the game was close, Heels being clutch at the end. Got a clutch block on Jamal Murray. Got a few key shots in. And when it comes down to it, you need to depend on a guy to finish the game, and that player is Kawhi. But that being said, Denver has proven time and time again they could go a distance with teams in the playoffs, and I think they will go a distance with Clippers. Not necessarily win against them, but they will take it far.
Evan said it best. Kawhi Leonard is playing some of the best basketball right now in the NBA, and I have to say that as much as I love the Nuggets right now, and I've always been praising them throughout the season, this Clippers team is really showing up when they need it to. Paul George and Kawhi Leonard rallying in that game too. I'm with Troy. Actually, I will say that I think it will go to Game 7, but I will give it the edge for the Clippers. I think at this rate, the way they're playing, the way they have this superstar mentality with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George still playing at their best, I think that will give them the edge. As much as I love Denver and they have the players, they definitely have a really well-balanced, fluid team. That's no doubt. I just think that this year in particular, I think the Clippers have the edge, and I'll say them in 7.
Look, I'll make this really simple. Clippers are going to win the series in 5. Denver's just out of gas, clearly, just like the Raptors looked in Game 5. They went through a tough series against Utah, and really, it's a two-man show in Denver right now. It's Jamal Murray and Jokic, and unless those guys put up 30 a night, it's hard to see Nuggets winning. Look, they have a lot of good, secondary players like the Raptors. With Gary Harris, terrific, especially in that game too. The way he closed it out with his shooting, he's been doing that his entire career. Michael Porter Jr., young, defensively, he still has a lot to learn. He's getting beat a lot by the Clippers. So I think, honestly, I don't think the Clippers are really trying. I think they know that they could play, at 75% and get away with it because of how talented they are. And I think now they're going to start taking it really seriously, knowing that they have probably the Lakers coming up. But we'll see with the Clippers. I can't see the Nuggets winning another game, especially if the Clippers win Game 4. Because if they win Game 4 up 3-1, I think the Nuggets know at this point they're not Utah. Good team, great team, but the Clippers are a different animal with the talent on their roster that they do have. Speaking of the Lakers. Lakers and Houston are deadlocked at 1 game apiece. Game 3 goes tonight, Tuesday night and Thursday every other day. So again, do the Rockets have any chance with their small ball approach to overthrowing the Lakers and somehow knock them out of the bubble?
Put it simply, no, they don't. Lakers, Houston's a team, they have great offense, and their way of winning would be simply just to outscore the Lakers. And they did that in Game 1. They were able to do that, but you can't just do that every single night in a playoff series. I think at the max, Rockets may take another game, but I wouldn't be surprised if Lakers are taking 5.
Yeah, it's one of those where it really is dependent on a certain player on the Lakers, LeBron James. We saw how in Game 1 how many points did he have in the fourth, or what was it? He had it was a career low at least for a playoff game.
Yeah.
I heard.
Yeah.
And that was big, and you saw Houston take away the win. And I know Game 2 was a different story, obviously. You expect the Lakers to come away from this. You do. For all the reasons Troy said, I do think that offensively they will try to outscore them, Houston, but simply LeBron and his Lakers are the better team. The question is, will LeBron be performing as well as will he be performing as well throughout the rest of this series? And that's the question mark. There's a lot of question marks on that. But simply put, I do think the Lakers will come away with it in the end.
I have to agree, and I think everyone's criticism of Houston is they're not consistent enough, which is true, and you can't be consistent when you play a small ball. I think at times, it has been working because they're aggressive. They have a lot of high IQ players, but you can't win with no size. We've never seen it done before, and there's a reason we're not going to see it happen this series because you don't win that way in basketball. Mike D'Antoni honestly should be fired. I don't know why he's still a head coach of that team. Just because they got a fluky series win against OKC. I thought OKC deserved to go through and were the better team, and I just enjoyed watching them more. I love James Harden. James Harden is one of my favorite players in the NBA for many reasons, and we saw in Game 1, he does things that not many people could do. But Westbrook time and time again we see he doesn't perform in the playoffs, and like you can't be a point guard or a shooting guard, whatever you want to classify him as, and not be able to shoot the three. Like they're just leaving him wide open. The Lakers, we saw it in the fourth quarter. There was not a person within a stratosphere of Russell Westbrook, and he still found a way to brick that 3-pointer. So like this Westbrook, he's good at what he does. The way the way he plays, like his aggressive nature, the way he drives the bucket, the way he can draw in double teams. That's all really good. But if you can't shoot the three, you can only go so far in this league as a point guard. So yeah, Lakers in 6. Houston will probably take another one, from like a dodgy reffing game or something. But yeah, the Lakers are just a better team. And yeah, I'd be shocked if it's not the Lakers and the Clippers facing in a week time. The final NBA series of the conference semifinals is Miami-Milwaukee. It looks like Miami is about to lock the series, maybe in 5, potentially 6. But a shock for Milwaukee, and they've been surprisingly poor this series. But what has Miami done well? And I'll let you say what you think. What went wrong for the Bucks?
I know what went wrong for Bucks is that they had no way of stopping like the talent Miami has. Like Jimmy Butler has been playing amazing all series. Bam Adebayo, who broke out the season, has been great as well. And I honestly think like just not being able to stop those 2 key players like kind of says it all. I expected Milwaukee to take it serious because Giannis is such a great player. It's such he's one of the best players in the league right now, and I thought that would have been enough for Milwaukee. I'm not surprised that Miami's going to take this serious, but I am surprised that they're taking it this easily. But I mean, that's just goes to show the talent that Miami has, and I think Richard Jefferson mentioned how Giannis is more of a Sky Pippen than he is a Michael Jordan, and to win he'll need a player like Michael Jordan. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Giannis is that level, not obviously the same as Jordan, but he has that level to carry a team. But I think he does need a second player. Like Milton is a great player, but he is not enough to help Giannis go to a championship. Giannis needs a better team around him, and for that reason, Miami does have that overall better team, and for that reason, they're going to take a series now.
And I'm surprised you're going to disrespect Chris Middleton, as now he's the only reason that they even have a chance.
He is. Okay,
but no, I'm joking with you. Chris Middleton's been, not at his best for a long time. His best was probably 2 years ago. That's when he got that max contract in. Look, we know the limitations to his game. He's very good at the mid-range. He reminds me of DeRozan with better defense. That's just the exact offensively to me, their games mirror each other.
Yeah.
DeRozan maybe got to the paint a little bit more. Then again, when DeRozan was here, he was a star. Middleton has Giannis, and he's giving up a lot of touches to Giannis. And Milwaukee, again, is a better team than Toronto's DeRozan. I mean, the comparison just came to me because, the mid-range game kind of he plays better defense, Middleton, but overall, when it matters most, they both kind of they don't live up to the moment when the lights shine brightest. No, but the thing with Giannis, Richard Jefferson, that was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. He's about to be a 2-time MVP, Defensive Player of the Year. He averages 30 points a game. Scottie Pippen's great, but Giannis is just a freak. What he can do with a basketball is kind of ridiculous. His frame, his size, everything about Giannis makes him unique, and that's why I love watching him play basketball. He is without a doubt a one-of-a-kind player, and hopefully, if Milwaukee gets knocked out, he hears Nick Nurse calling, and Masai Ujiri, get on the phone. If the Raptors want to win a championship, that's the guy you bring in. But look, time will tell. This is obviously discussion for another day. What Miami does, well, look, they shoot the threes, and that's Milwaukee's kryptonite. They'll say, look, you're not getting anything inside the paint. They're number one in defending inside the paint, but they give up a lot of threes. In Miami, they shoot threes for fun. Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero have been fantastic to watch. Goran Dragic has a good shooting stroke right now. Jay Crowder, be doing it for a long time. That's the guy you bring on your team to win you a championship, because Jay Crowder is one of those guys that understands the league, locks down all business, just like Jimmy Butler. So I think Miami has a lot of those veterans with that kind of personality and that kind of attitude. Looking at Crowder, looking at Dragic, Jimmy Butler, Iguodala, who we haven't seen too much of, but he's been doing it. And then you got the shooters. We mentioned Hero and Robinson, but you also got Kelly Olynyk spreading the floor from the 5. He's been doing a terrific job throughout the playoffs, not only this series. So Miami's a tough out right now. Eric Spoelstra is a defensive mastermind. The top 3 head coaches in the East, it's without a doubt Nick Nurse, Brad Stevens, and Eric Spoelstra. That's without a question. There's no debate. There's no nothing. There's nothing that has to be said about those 3 guys, top 3 in the East, without a shadow of the doubt. But look, you look at Miami, you look at the fact that they may play Boston. I don't know how Boston beats Miami. They play with such intensity and such hunger on the defensive end, and they're finding their shots at will. I think they're just such a tough out right now. When a team's on, they're on. And you look at Miami, I don't know how Boston or potentially Toronto beats that team in 7 games. That team is locked in right now. We will segue into the NHL, where the conference finals are underway. Game 1s have been played, but we don't want to spend too much time talking about those games. We're just going to break down the series for you guys. So we'll start with Dallas-Vegas. Dallas has the early advantage, up 1-0 in that series. In a close game, 1-0. Only a first period goal separated those two. But how do you see that series finishing? Because I see it going 7.
I agree with you. I see the series going 7. My pick as to who wins at 7, I think you might disagree with me on this, but I'll give it to Dallas in 7. I just think that throughout this playoffs, like, they've faced the tougher matchups, they've faced the better teams, and they've overcome Colorado. They were good teams that they had to overcome, and Vegas faced good teams too. But like, I just think, Chicago was was the easier matchup. Vancouver, put up a fight, but I think after coming off that win against Colorado, I think Dallas just has that momentum to kind of push all the way into the Stanley Cup Finals. And we saw that they won Game 1, so they've already got that advantage going forward. But it will be a close series. There's nothing I'm saying right now is a knock on Vegas, because Vegas is they played some great hockey throughout the playoffs. But I just think that Dallas, they have that momentum right now. And, to beat Colorado, I had Colorado going to Stanley Cup Finals. That was my prediction originally. And so to be a team like that, that's huge for them. So I think they can go all the way.
I think both teams have the belief that they're going to win this series, and that's what's going to make it a terrific conference finals. I was leaning towards Dallas after watching that Game 1. They're playing great defense. They're doing everything right. They're getting, I guess, timely goals. They only needed the 1, but they are getting the goals that they need, and they're winning close games. Unfortunately, I like to argue with you, and I always like to have a different opinion than you, so I will take Vegas in 7. Look, there's not too much to say. They're both terrific teams. They both have their strengths. They both have their weaknesses, just with any team. And it's whoever, it's going to be different every night. You're going to see a lot of different things. It's going to be, a lot of inconsistencies from one night to another. There's going to be a lot of adjustments made after every game. Everything will be viewed through a different lens in this series, just because, again, it's a conference finals. Everything you do is magnified. So I think, someone's going to tense up. A mistake will happen in the third period. There's so much that could happen. It's so 50-50. I'll take Vegas simply because you took Dallas. And look, it's like a 49-51. Who's going to win? I think hopefully Vegas takes Game 2, so we're right back even. And we have a lot of good hockey, but look, we'll see. There's not too much to separate these two hockey teams. And the other one, Tampa Bay, New York Islanders. Tampa coming off a series win against the Boston Bruins. The Islanders coming off a series win versus the Philadelphia Flyers. In Game 1, Tampa Bay blew out the Islanders. It was an 8-2 scoreline. Braden Point, 4 points, terrific. Kucherov as well, but as a team effort. What do you make of the Islanders? How do you see this series playing out? Because game one didn't look too promising for the team from Long Island.
Okay, here's the thing about the series, and you have to hear me on this. I think it'll either be Tampa in 5, or Islanders can take it to 7. And let me explain why. Because look, Tampa is one of the most talented offenses in the league. Like, there's no question about that. And Islanders, they have a great defense. If the moment Tampa starts scoring on that defense and they start outscoring Islanders by a lot, they're going to take the series easily. It won't be a competition. It won't be a long series if Tampa keeps playing like they did game one, because and that's very possible because they're just that good offensively. That being said, with the defense the Islanders have, Islanders are the type of team to push like offensive teams to distance. They won't win like every game down there, but they will like put up their own fight for like each game. And if they manage to limit Tampa Bay a little bit, they could take a series far. That being said, that's also a big if, because like I said, Tampa has such a good offense, and it could either that's what I'm saying. It could either be a close series for Islanders if they can go distance with Tampa Bay, or it could be a very short series for Tampa Bay because they could just quickly outscore Islanders before they could get going, and then it's done for them.
I think Tampa Bay is going to win this series. I'm in 6. Like the Islanders, they won't lay down. Even after game one, this is a prideful group of hockey players that they're not going away, and I think they'll honestly take game 2. But I think the offense that Tampa Bay possesses is just one of those things that are just so overpowering, and they overwhelm you in the offensive zone. And despite the Islanders having 6 really good defenders, I don't think anyone's going to stop Tampa Bay from winning the Cup this year. I think finally it's this year. I think they really lost a lot of sleep last year. Again, not reaching expectations. They were Cup favorites last year. I think this year they slightly flew under the radar because people weren't, calling them favorites again just because of what happened last year. And I think that's been to their advantage. I think throughout the regular season they did their thing. They finished, I think it was top 3 in the East, top 2. They were for sure, I think, at top 2, maybe 1. But they did the thing in the regular season. In the playoffs, they're doing the thing again. They got a little bit of luck along the way with Tuukka Rask leaving the bubble. Pasternak didn't play every game in that series. So I think they've been helped along the way, but that's only grown their confidence, and we saw that in the A2. Was it a one-off game? Yeah, because you're not going to win every game A2, let alone every playoff game by that scoreline. But it happens when everything goes right. It goes right. We saw it against the Raptors just yesterday. We saw it go for Tampa Bay. That's sports. You never know what could happen from game to game. The Islanders obviously won't play as badly as they did. But with that being said, Tampa Bay is one of those teams that just looks so strong. That looks too strong in regards to their scoring ability. And if they're scoring for fun, then look, the Islanders are going to beat them, nor the Stars or the Golden Knights. So, look, big series for the Islanders. They have every right to think that they're still in it because it's only game 1. And it's a long series. So good luck to both those teams. I just like Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I completely agree on that.
The NFL season starts on Thursday night with the Chiefs kicking off against the Texans. And there's a lot to break down within the NFL. Troy, I'll start with you. What are you looking for the most throughout this year in this what's going to be a very unique NFL season?
Well, you know me as a Ravens fan, I am very excited for the Baltimore Ravens season. Lamar Jackson last year, conference MVP season, had a breakout year, and I think as a team, we are even better than we were last year. We've continuously adding to our defense, adding to our offense pieces, and we have a young team. Our season ended disappointing last year with that loss to Tennessee Titans, but it's a type of loss where we're taking as, even though we were the favorites to win, and that in itself is disappointment. we still have a young team. We have a future. We're going to be back here like this season where we were. And I expect us to play better. I expect Lamar Jackson to only improve as a quarterback. I expect him to like continue being great in his running game. I expect him to improve as a passer as well. And I expect our defense to also like be as great as they've always been because Ravens, even in our bad years, our defense has always been a strong point of the team. And I think that's largely thanks to John Harbaugh. Like he's as a coach, he has just done a terrific job all these years. And yeah, I'm excited for the Ravens season. And I could tell you I want to say something about the Ravens right now, so I'll just give it to you.
I'll ask you. How do you think the Ravens season finishes?
12-4.
12-4.
Yeah, there's going to be some games that disappoint us as fans. Like there's going to be games that we expect to win and we don't. I mean that happens in football a lot. But I think a realistic thing I can expect is a 12-4 season.
In the playoffs?
I'm not going to predict us to go Super Bowl because I never predict a team just to go all the way because there's going to be upsets in every sport you watch. I think we'll win a playoff round. I think we'll win a playoff game this season. I think we'll probably get bye week in the wild card round, and I think we'll win first game. I'm not going to say we're going to lose the game after that. I'm not going to predict anything after that, but I will say I think we will win a playoff game this year.
Matthew, with your Ravens pick, a Patriots fan, Daria Amir-Shahi, how is that season going to go? An unprecedented situation for the Patriots without Tom Brady for the first time in 20 years.
Yeah, that's going to be very bizarre for all Patriot fans. It's going to be weird. No, we're not going to see Brady in the number 12 shirt. It's a weird feeling. Definitely. It's a start of something new. Definitely. Belichick is still obviously there. We've still made improvements somewhat in the off season, at least defensively. And we obviously have some certain players have opted out, which will become key, I think, at certain points in the season. But, I think a lot of Patriot fans should be cautiously optimistic with Cam Newton. I do think he's a great athlete. I think he's a great player who was on an unfortunate team such as Carolina, which was kind of done for him in his final year. And I really think this could rejuvenate his career in general. Some of the problems obviously lie with the Patriots not having too many weapons as they used to. Julian Edelman is probably the most known, I would say. And there's some players right now, to be honest, Belichick is really cutting a lot of players at the moment. I heard Mohamed Sanu being cut at the moment, Lamar Miller. It's funny because relatively a lot of players remain the same, but also different. It's a very complex situation with the Patriots. And I don't even know if I can consider it a rebuild right now. We'll have to kind of see how the season plays out. But I'm going to be cautiously optimistic and say that we have a 9-7 record, and I do think we'll make the wild card. Just from there on, I don't know where it's going to head. It really all depends on how Cam Newton performs in a New England Patriots shirt, which, by the way, I think is something to really be excited about. I do think this could really he was one of the picks I was thinking, okay, yeah, he would not be bad to bring it into that shirt. No one can replace Tom Brady, but it definitely will put a smile on a lot of Patriot fans' faces.
So I'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys as I'll be watching them for the first time in about 10 years with excitement because the tumor that was Jason Garrett has finally been removed out of the head coaching position. I'm not saying Mike McCarthy is a world-class head coach, but I think at the very least he's a top 10 coach in the NHL, brings a lot of experience. Smart play caller, something that we never had in Jason Garrett for God knows how long. But look, he's gone. Look, everyone knows that he was probably the worst head coach in the league. He and Marvin Lewis always were competing for that title. Jason Garrett. But anyways, yeah, look, new outlook on the season. I think we are one of the most talented offenses in the league, probably on paper. We do have the most talent. We have the best QB, which is the most important position. No. So a quick word on Dak Prescott. Stop whining. Stop complaining. You're making 35. Like, what's the contract offer? $35 million a year. Yeah, there's starving people around the world, and you're trying to milk an extra $5 to prove that you're something you're not, a top 5 QB. Look, Dak, you're great at what you do. I've loved you from the moment you stepped into a Dallas uniform because you've always been about the community. You've always been about giving back. You seem like a pretty humble player, but your greenness is kind of getting obnoxious for Dallas fans at this point. Maybe some delusional fans will be pay Dak. He's earned it. You've earned nothing. Playoff wins, one. Is Jason Garrett to blame? Partly, but look, take your 35 mil. Be the QB of this franchise that looks like they will be a Super Bowl threat for years to come. CeeDee Lamb, excited to watch. Cooper, we know what Cooper brings, and Michael Gallup. That receiving core is ridiculous. Ezekiel Elliott, he's gonna do Ezekiel Elliott things, and for the first time, again, we have a good head coach that will understand late game situations and not blow so many games late in fourth quarters. So I'm excited as a Dallas fan because there's actually optimism to look forward to the season. Outside of Dak Prescott whining for an extra $5 million. Good for you, Dak. Yeah, I'm sick of listening to you talk about how much money you deserve because, frankly, the amount of money you deserve has already been offered, and you turned it down for whatever reason. And if you're not the QB of this franchise next year, then I really won't care. That's the reality of Dak Prescott. Am I in love with him as a player? No. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Mahomes. He's not Aaron Rodgers. I don't know what he thinks he is. He's not Deshaun Watson. He's the next tier. He's not Russell Wilson. He's a tier right below that, and he should be paid accordingly. But we'll see what happens. We will see what happens this year, and there's a lot that could happen. It's the NFL. It's crazy. You never know what to expect in any given game. So look forward to this season. Game 1 at Kansas City versus the Houston Texans. That goes Thursday nights. And NFL fans, get ready. It's going to be a crazy, crazy season for sure.
Thank you for listening to 55 Sports. Remember, we drop an episode every Wednesday at 8 p.m. And see you guys next time.